Hey guys, Cameron with CBM Reviews here, and we're in the top 5. We're in my favorite, my number 1 through 5 pick as far as my top 20 comic book movies of all time. If you missed number 6 through 20, go ahead and click the videos up here so that you can see which ones were my personal favorite as far as comic book movies are concerned. But now we're in the top 5, and we're going to get things started off with one of the best movies that's come out this year, Black Panther. This was set in the fictional country of Wakanda, which has all the vibranium and it has all the fly gear. I mean, it does. And this movie was so surprisingly well done. I loved this movie so much. This movie is emotional. It deals with racial stereotypes. It deals with family issues. It deals with social economic disparities. And you're not supposed to do that in comic book movies. You're supposed to fight and have fun and have bad guys that are just evil for evil's sake. Except this one has a bad guy that's one of the best bad guys we've ever seen in comic book history or in movie history. He has super valid points. He has a reason why he feels this way. And in his opinion, he is 100% justified in feeling that way. Also, because of the actions that he took, it causes our protagonist to change his mentality about things. He actually causes the hero to go through growth based on his personal life experiences. It is so wonderful to watch. Even if this movie doesn't speak to you on a personal level, it is still a great movie. Not all of the special effects hit 100%. And there are some other small issues that I have with the story. But this is such a gorgeous movie. It was such a great storytelling moment. And I loved almost every single thing about this movie. Number 4, we're going to stick with Marvel. And in fact, we're really sticking with Black Panther 2. With Captain America Civil War. Oh my goodness. This is somewhat based loosely off of the Civil War event that happened in Marvel Comics back in the 2000s. And I didn't know exactly how they were going to make everything work. But they did, and wow. Everything fits. This had the largest comic book cast to date. Even though there wasn't a Thor, there wasn't a Hulk. Everybody's role made sense. And you had some really good fight scenes. You didn't really have a villainous villain. You had somebody kind of pulling the strings from the background. But while they were doing it, they felt completely justified. Once again, we have a villain who does things not to be villainous, not to be but they have legitimate reasons for doing what they're doing. We had the introduction of Black Panther in this movie and the introduction of the Marvel Cinematic Universe Spider-Man in this movie. And I wasn't sure how I'd feel about Tom Holland. Tom Holland is like one of the best Spider-Men in any media. In fact, I proclaimed him to be the best Spider-Man in my Spider-Man Homecoming review. Something that I do not regret. But we have your Team Iron Man and your Team Captain America. And I loved every bit of this, even going down to the airport fight scene, which may be the best comic book fight scene of all time. It still might be. Just everything works so well in that fight scene. I loved it. It was a 19-minute fight scene, and it could have gone on a little bit longer. It was that enthralling. Number 3 on this list. Number 3 is quite possibly the best comic book movie ever made. It just isn't my favorite. And that is The Dark Knight. This was Christopher Nolan's second Batman outing following Batman Begins. And this one had Christian Bale reprise his role as Batman, but brought in Heath Ledger to play the Joker. There is nothing negative that I can really harp on in this movie. The hero has complexity and goes through moments where he's not sure if what he's doing is what needs to be done. The villain knows what he's doing. He's not just crazy for crazy's sake. He is breaking down our hero to cause about a change in Gotham. He's not just being a wacky, zany, cuckoo guy. This Joker is an anarchist. And you see the anarchy with the portrayal. So much so, this movie came out back in 2008. It is the best Batman movie ever to be made. It is one of the best Joker portrayals ever done. I still have an affinity for Mark Hamill. That's just personal preference. And the story itself, that's breaking down how Batman has this line that he will not cross and at what lengths he will go to prevent him from crossing that line. It shows, it's a testament to his determination. And then let's not even dive into the supporting cast and how great Michael Caine and Morgan Freeman is. And then we have Aaron Eckhart, who is the surprise secondary villain that doesn't feel like it's just tacked on or an afterthought, but does still play a predominant role in the second or the third act of this movie. Like I said, it may be the best made comic book movie. Number 2 of my favorite comic book movies is The Avengers. Is The Avengers as well done as The Dark Knight? No, it's not. Does The Avengers have as many characters as Captain America Civil War? No, it doesn't. I'll tell you what this movie does, though. This movie is a milestone in the cinematic universe building. What this movie did was combine the elements from previous movies and put them all together, intersecting in their own storylines until they finally came together. It didn't disappoint. And it had the throwback to the old comics where Loki was the bad guy, who we had seen in the first Thor movie, but we really got to enjoy in the Avengers. We see everybody play a predominant role. There were no weak links, except for Hawkeye, who is used to progress the story. He's really not much of a character. But setting that aside, this was one of my most cherished movies. I loved it. The feeling that I got, which is why it's number 2, the feeling that I got while watching this movie, especially when they're in New York, can only be topped by one other movie, and that's why it lands at number 2. So we've been building up all of these movies, getting to our number 1 pick, and my number 1 favorite comic book movie of all time, surpassing all others, is Catwoman. No, I'm lying. It's not Catwoman. It's Spider-Man II. Spider-Man II, which was directed by Sam Raimi, came out back in 2004 and starred Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, Alfred Molina, and it just was about as perfect as a comic book movie could be, especially with getting the characters right. This one got the struggle that Peter Parker has with trying to have a personal life that works and trying to save people as Spider-Man. And he sees that sometimes he can't get what he wants in life. The things that he wants, he has to compromise and give up because of his life as the Webbed Crusader. And then you've got Doc Ock, who is a mirror parallel to Peter, whereas there was a science experiment gone wrong, and one goes into a life of crime, and the other goes into a life of saving people. And you just sometimes don't get that dichotomy. You see it all the time in comic books, but how often do we see that in the movies? Yeah, Professor X and Magneto. But does it happen anywhere else where you have those parallels and then a split? Not very often. You've got the relationship that Peter has with Aunt May, and it's tested based on the confession that he makes halfway through the movie. You've got the strained relation that Peter has with MJ, the strained relation that Peter has with Harry, and then it comes together in what feels like has the biggest heart of almost any hero in any comic book movie with stopping the elevated train. He puts all of his personal things aside, the mask comes off, and he is there to stop the train, and he lays it all out on the line. It is a beautiful scene, especially when you tack on to what the commuters on that train do after he saves them. It is heartwarming, it is beautiful, it is poignant, and even though some people may not agree with me, it is my favorite comic book movie of all time. So that is my 1 to 5 for this video, and that's my top 20 comic book movies of all time. Let me know what your top 20 are in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, and if you're new here and you want to see other stuff like this, go ahead and subscribe. Share this video with all your friends, And as always, this is Cameron with CBM Reviews. We'll see you next time.